you ever had this brilliant idea, right? But then you speak up in a meeting and your voice just doesn't carry the weight you wanted it to. You kind of end up mumbling or you just sound a little too small for the moment. Well, it turns out there is an exact physical roadmap to fixing that. Today, we're diving deep into the science that maps out the path to unshakable credibility. And you know what the most interesting part is? The tools to get there are shockingly simple.
Okay, think about this for a second. Does the exact distance between your chin and your chest actually determine how much power you wield in a high-pressure room? I know, it sounds a little wild, right? The idea that mere millimeters of physical space on your own body could literally dictate your confidence. But what the research we're unpacking today shows us is that physical posture is a massive driver of how we're perceived. And honestly, more importantly, how we feel. When the pressure is really on, that physical alignment can literally be the difference between commanding a room into shrinking into the background.
So, what if I told you the secret weapon to moving away from all that insecurity and locking in unshakable credibility costs about 30 cents? Seriously, it is highly likely sitting in your junk drawer right now. It's just an everyday object that can actually train your brain to enunciate with absolute authority. We are going to reveal exactly what it is in just a bit. But first, we need to understand the invisible trap we all fall into when the pressure turns up. Look, to solve the problem, we first have to name the problem, right? We call this the throat-voice trap. When we get nervous, our natural biological response is to shrink. We physically collapse inward, our breathing gets super shallow, and our voices instantly follow suit. We end up using this throat voice. It sounds a little like this, slightly tighter, it's very friendly and warm, but it's incredibly shallow. It just doesn't carry any real weight. You hear it all the time from people trying to navigate high-pressure rooms. It's a totally unconscious physical reaction to tension, but unfortunately, it actively blocks our momentum. It makes us sound insecure, even when we know exactly what we're talking about. Now, what's really interesting about this comparison is the stark contrast in how these two voices are actually perceived by the human ear. On one hand, we've got that throat voice we just talked about, shallow, accommodating, definitely lacking authority. But then look at the alternative, the diaphragmatic voice. This is a voice supported by deep breath. It has real resonance. It has what we call gravitas. Moving your voice out of your throat and down into your diaphragm instantly leads to perceptions of much greater credibility. When you speak with a diaphragmatic voice, people don't just hear you, they believe you. But the real question is, how on earth do you find that deep, resonant voice when your heart is pounding out of your chest? Well, this brings us to the absolutely brilliant work of behavioral researcher Dr. Shadé Zahrai. Her research dives into a super fascinating field called embodied cognition. For a long time, we thought of our bodies as just passive passengers to our brains. We thought, okay, I feel nervous, therefore my voice gets high and tight. But embodied cognition proves that the relationship works in reverse, too. Our posture and our voice don't just reflect our internal emotional state, they actively create it. If you change the physical structure of your posture and your vocal cords, you actually send signals back up to your brain that change how you feel. It's this completely logical, scientific bridge to our physical solutions. So the very first step to unlocking that diaphragmatic voice relies on a physical hack called neck flexion. And Dr. Zahrai gives us this fantastic rhythmic little mnemonic to remember it. Lift the chin, let's begin. It really is that simple. When you physically expand that specific distance between your chin and your chest, you open up the airway. But it goes beyond just the mechanics of breathing. You are biologically signaling to your brain that you are safe. Think about it. You're exposing your neck, which is a highly vulnerable part of the body. By doing that, you're basically telling your nervous system, I am in control here. I am powerful. Lift the chin. Let's begin. Okay, let's dive into this. How do we actually force this physical shift? Well, that brings us right back to that 30-cent object in your junk drawer. It is time to introduce the neuroscientific hack Dr. Zahrai recommends to completely transform your enunciation. We call it the pen trick. This is a highly actionable, super physical exercise that acts as your absolute ultimate defense against mumbling. It's basically going to force your mouth to do the hard work it's been avoiding. All right, here is how you execute it. Step 1. Take a standard, clean pen and place it horizontally between your teeth. You want to grip it lightly, kind of like a dog would hold a bone. Step 2. While holding that pen in place, read a paragraph out loud. Any paragraph works, but really focus on pronouncing every single syllable as clearly as humanly possible. Now, fair warning, it feels super awkward. You are absolutely going to sound ridiculous. But step 3 is where the magic happens. The moment you remove that pen and read the paragraph again, wow. You will feel an immediate, profound stretch.
Let's break down the physical results of what you literally just did. By fighting against the resistance of the pen, you essentially just put your mouth through a high-intensity workout. You've created a fully warmed-up mouth. You've deeply stretched the facial muscles, the throat, and the tongue. Normally, when we get nervous, all of these muscles just lock up and stay super tight, which is exactly what causes us to mumble and trip over our words in the first place. By stretching them out with a pen, your words suddenly become incredibly intentional. Your enunciation becomes razor sharp. And remember, this isn't about sounding fancy or putting on an act. This is about ensuring that your message is actually received. Because the reality is, when you mumble, you just block your own influence.
So here is my challenge to you. Pick the smallest possible step to integrate this into your routine. I'm talking just 30 seconds. Before your next Zoom call, your next presentation, or even just a difficult conversation, do the pen trick for exactly 30 seconds. That is literally all it takes to stretch those muscles and recalibrate your brain for elite-level confidence. It takes practically zero time, but man, the return on investment for your credibility is massive. So the crucial point here is that action precedes motivation. Look, I know it feels silly standing in your bathroom with a pen in your mouth. You might be standing there thinking, I don't feel confident right now, so doing this feels completely fake. But here's the secret. You do not have to feel confident to act confident. The beautiful truth about embodied cognition is that the action comes first. The physical behavior forces the brain to catch up. When you take the physical steps to open your airway and stretch your muscles, the motivation and the feeling of power will naturally follow the action. Every single time you take just 30 seconds to do this trick, you're doing so much more than just warming up your vocal cords. You're casting a vote. You are casting an undeniable vote for the version of yourself that is powerful, the version that deserves to be heard, and the version that commands respect in literally any room. You're actively choosing not to shrink. You are choosing to step into your gravitas. So there you have it. You now have the exact physical roadmap. You've got the science of embodied cognition, the lift the chin technique, and the pen trick to stop blocking your own momentum. That unshakable credibility you've been looking for, it's just been trapped behind tight muscles and shallow breathing this whole time. So go grab that 30-cent pen, stretch those muscles, and ask yourself, how will you use your voice today? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.